Welcome to Sit Down with the Soekawas. I'm Alicia Soekawa.
And I am Michael Soekawa.
And we own The Collaborative, a real estate brokerage in Richmond, Virginia. We are husband and wife and mom and dad. And this podcast is talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly of real estate business and working with your spouse. Okay. All right. Here we go.
Welcome to Sitting with the Soekawas.
No.
You lead it off.
Do it again. It's Sit Down with the Soekawas.
Right. Sit Down with the Soekawas. Welcome to Sit Down with the Soekawas.
Hello. With Alicia and
Michael Soekawa.
Yep. And today happens to be
October 27th.
Why are you laughing?
Because I know what you were leading me into, so I was just trying to get that reaction. It is the anniversary of our churchy wedding.
That's another podcast.
Oh.
That's another podcast.
What is today?
No, meaning like that'll be another topic.
Oh, yeah.
What a churchy wedding is.
We could definitely fill that up.
So anyways, sorry for the digression, but we just got back from team leadership retreat from a big coaching conference for all the team leaders because we were in leadership team coaching with Tom Ferry. And we had the privilege of taking our entire family. That's one of the big wins, I will say, with going into business for ourselves is being able to take our family on vacation. I think that it was really cool to be approached by their agents and say like, wow, you guys brought your kids. It's during the school year. And if you had asked me like 5 years ago, would I take my kids out of school to go on a trip during school time, I probably wouldn't have. And I think, becoming more open-minded and understanding that life is school as well, and that their life experience of going on this trip and just missing a couple of days of school really, wasn't going to define their schooling. And it was a really amazing opportunity for our family to bond and be together and for them to see us in action in our business and also to experience the beautiful city of San Diego.
And we also did see some other kids at the conference.
Yeah.
So there were other people doing it as well.
So it was really cool. And people approached me, they're like, I'm going to do that now.
Yeah.
So I think we influenced people in that way, which I think is kind of cool.
It's awesome.
So we went and it was a really cool conference. They had different breakout sessions about like operations and leadership and marketing and all that kind of fun stuff about how do you take and scale your business from where you're at now, like a smaller business, and try to go bigger and go larger. This is the retreat where all of the team groups are together, growth, mastery, and legacy. So you have smaller teams and you have teams that are mega sized that are probably doing $1 billion with a business, believe it or not, in real estate as brokerages or teams. So we thought it'd be really cool today to talk about, because we're trying to grow and scale. We're interviewing a marketing manager, a leadership position really to come in and step in and take over when our beloved Macy leaves us to go into her real life world of her personal life. We're not going to get into that. Anyways, we're sad, but she's going to go and we're wishing her well. But anyways, we're in the process of interviewing, and we made a decision as a company and as a business to say, we don't want to bring an entry person in. We want to bring a leadership person in to scale us and take us to the next level, or to, in a sense, build the machine that we want the collaborative to be.
Exactly. We have to start hiring professionals that have real experience and can demonstrate the results that they've been able to achieve for other companies.
So we're excited because this one individual, we're hoping we seem like he's the real deal. We'll see. When this podcast comes out, hopefully he will be in the position, and it will be all fun to see that. And we're also leveling up and changing some interesting things and developing more accountability for our office. So if everyone's listening that is in our office, there's going to be a ton more accountability.
Get ready.
Get yourself ready. Okay. Macy's like, I'm out. Okay. No, not really. She's very accountable. So just teasing her. She's literally here staring at us, which I love. So we thought today would be really cool as we're in that process of hiring again, which is something that is not something everyone's great at. That's why they have HR departments and all that kind of great stuff. But it's important to look at personality and roles.
Absolutely.
So there's this great thing that we follow, and I actually put all of our job listings. I use a company called Wise Hire. I am not being paid to use them, to mention them, but it's a great it kind of feeds out to all of the different like Indeeds and all that kind of stuff. But they also trigger a DISC personality test that's sent to each person. It's an assessment. And this is something I actually have used when I was in corporate days with Amgen.
Yeah, it's used in many industries. And I think it's pretty hard to fool. I think not fool. When people take tests like this, they often try to place themselves where they think they will look best or where the kind of person they want to be. But if you do take this test, quickly answer without thinking too deeply, you do get very good results usually.
So the question is that when you take this assessment, it needs to be current, because your DISC can change and adapt as you change as a human being, as you grow and develop yourself as well, in positions and life and age and all that good stuff. So what happens is, though, there's still a trending personality trait of who you are sometimes that you can't change too. Like we're like the stripes on a tiger. You can't take those off. And one of our first podcasts, we did talk about why you and I are very compatible. We talked about that DISC, remember, earlier on, but we didn't really go deeply into it in other roles. And actually interesting that one of the Enza Media staffs, Philip, came over and said like, hey, is there an ideal realtor DISC? And actually there is. It just depends.
Definitely.
So there's an ideal realtor DISC if you want to be a team lead. And there's a realtor ideal DISC if you want to be a team agent and a solo agent. So they're all actually different, believe it or not. And there's also ideal DISC personality types for people that are assistants or supportive roles, marketing roles, all that kind of great stuff. And it's really, really cool because I think it's something that it helps you when you're interviewing people. It helps you when you're looking at people's personalities to say like, will this person innately be good at this job? Because if you have to force yourself to do something and you're not good at it, that's where I think the rub comes and there's not alignment.
Well, like a good way to break it down is you can have a creative person. You don't necessarily want them handling your books or analyzing Google ad
words because they're not an analytical.
Exactly.
So we are used to using that words like left brain, right brain, analytical, creative, things like that. But DISC actually breaks it down into 4 different things. And DISC stands for DISC. That's DISC assessment. And I actually pulled it up because sometimes it's hard to remember. D is driver or dominance. I is influence. S is steadiness. I also like to say support. And consciousness is C.
Right.
So what you're seeing in the relationship is people usually have a dominant DISC and a secondary. And then there's something called your natural DISC and your adaptive. So a natural would be like who you are innately, but adaptive would be like when you're being watched. So like when you're at work, you're being watched, or when you are with your friends, you're going to be different. So that's why you'll see some people like, remember we have a friend, we used to call him Business Billy or Party Billy.
Right.
And I'm not going to say his last name, but you know who you are if you're listening to this.
And I'm sure he's still Business Billy and Party Billy.
Yes. So like it's 2 different, it's almost like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde is what you see that, right? Personality. But what the difference is, it's not a negativity to it, but it's more like what that you're seeing is that when they're being observed, that's their adaptive.
Right.
And then their natural is going to be the dominant, like the natural state. And so when you take this test, it even shows you the adaptive. And the really cool part about this test is it actually shows you the values. Right. So the values index is really telling, even more so than the DISC. And the values index will go into economic, goes into individualistic. So if someone has really high individualistic on their thing, they're probably not going to be a good team player. Because their individualistic is so high, they want to go and do their own thing.
And we all know people like that.
Yeah. And that's totally fine. It's just that's that person's DISC.
Exactly.
Just like aesthetic is another one that's on the values.
Right.
And so someone that has really high aesthetic means that their environment has to be beautiful, conducive. That would be like your interior designers, your creatives, your artists. Typically, if you know anybody that has like a perfectly designed home with no stuff anywhere, their aesthetic is probably really, really, really high because they can't be in a place that's cluttered or not aesthetic. So it's really cool to see. And it actually plays out when you send people their DISC. They're like, oh my gosh, this is totally me.
And if anyone wants to follow along, you can just go on Google and type in DISC profile test or something like that. It'll come right up. And there's even really cool graphics that kind of break it down.
So if anybody wants to guess, what am I?
I don't think anyone would be guessing. It's pretty obvious. You have a little D in you, perhaps?
I have off the charts D and I.
Yeah.
And a little bit of S and non-existent C. And I struggle. I think adaptive C is higher because if I'm being watched or if it's something I need to do, I can be very detail oriented and do the numbers. I can force my brain to be in that way, but it's not my natural state. It's not what I like to do. It's not easy to me.
Right.
I don't care for it. So when it's time to do business planning, even though I'm doing it with all of our team and as a team lead, it's very important.
That's why I do it.
I'm like, oh God, like we have to do it.
Yeah.
Right. So that's me. And Michael has a very high S, off the charts S. Right. And you actually don't have that high of a C. I was surprised. I thought you'd have a higher C.
I think I used to. So I think that's changed a lot when I think about my personality and even knowing how I was before I met you and whatnot. So
I was surprised his S is really high and you have a medium I and a medium D.
Right.
And then like a lower C.
Right.
So it's kind of like a complementary. But your role really suits that's why you're so diplomatic. And that's like, it's like the peacekeeper of the family, the one that shows up to like, I'll help you. If he's the first person that's like, if someone's like, help, he will come and help them.
Right.
Whereas I'll be like, I can't, I gotta go.
Just don't all call at once.
Yeah, don't call him. Yeah. I'm going to be the D and be like, you can't go do that, babe.
Got to get through the gatekeeper.
So, but that's kind of the cool thing. And so when we talk about what we're looking for in a marketing role, it's typically a certain role that would be. So someone that has enough D, when I look for support in our office now, what I realized, I originally was trying to find the complete opposite to me. Right. So high C, high S. And in that, I made a mistake because they had such low I and low D that they had no personality. So it was literally like talking. Everyone knows that feeling when you go and you meet someone. If this is you, no shade. It's just who you are.
We're just talking about the profile attached to certain roles.
Yes,
in a
business
supportive
care
life
business.
Right, exactly.
So if you hire someone that has off the charts 99% S and C, yeah, they're going to be super detail oriented. They're going to be super process oriented. They're going to probably be crunching numbers out and everything's going to be precise. But if they don't have enough D and initiative in there, they may take like 10 hours to turn something in that should take 5 minutes because they're looking it over, they're analyzing it, they're overanalyzing it, they're analyzing it again.
And then they also may not even turn it in without saying, hey, can you take a look at this?
Can you take a look at this? They can't make any decisions. And then if they have no I, they have no personality and they have no interest in talking to you. So those are the people that are super introverted, almost to the point where you're like, they're like the lab rats. Yeah. They like stay in the lab and like they don't want to talk to you. So that makes it very difficult if you're wanting customer service or you need them to call your clients or follow up.
Right.
So typically we do like to see still a healthy I, but if the I is so high and they're being your admin and supportive, then you run the risk of someone chit-chatting and the whole day's gone by and nothing's been done. Yeah. So it's like, that's not good either.
It's tricky. It's very tricky finding the right people for different roles. But it by doing this test, it will also help you understand people.
So that's one thing as coaching too, is when we train is that we really learn, they make us study the disc.
Right.
And they call it social styles too. So there's actually a book you can get called Surrounded by Idiots. It's hysterical, but it's about the disc. They just use colors instead of DISC, but it's the same thing.
That's cool.
And then there's a book. It looks like a textbook called The Social Styles Handbook, and it's the same thing. And I've read that 3 times now. Right. And it's really cool because if you understand someone's disc and you understand what their natural abilities is or their adaptive abilities and where they're coming from, you can then cater how you come towards them. If you're working with someone that's super analytical, you can't brush off data. Right. You have to come prepared with the data because they're super analytical and they need to see all the numbers. But on the flip side, if you're working with someone that's super I, they don't want the details. Right. They want it to be fun. Yeah. So you got to make it fun. You got to show them it's so much fun. It's going to be so much fun. This is going to be so much fun. And that's how you show them.
Do you have to say that 3 times
yes.
when you're talking to them? Okay. Just want to make sure.
They want to know it's going to be a good time.
Okay.
So, and they'll even tell you that, like, I don't want to know the details. Yeah. They'll even say that you have to listen to the cues. I don't want the details. And you may be trying to give them the details and they're like, just told you I don't want the details.
So like, what would be a good role for a person like that?
Fun times person, an agent.
Okay.
So agents are super usually high I, high S, medium D, and lower C are typical great buyer's agents.
Right.
They're a lot of fun to be with. They make it fun for the buyer. They're easy to talk to. They're willing to go talk to people. They're willing to meet people. They love it. So to them, it's fun to show all the houses and write all the contracts and hang out and do all the things.
Which was about 95% of the people we met last week.
Correct. But actually,
not the operators necessarily.
Those are actually the leaders that you met, they're DI.
Okay, that makes sense.
So that's when I said that personality, that would be a solo agent or an agent that's a team agent.
Gotcha.
A team lead has high D and high I typically. And sometimes you'll see team leads have high D and C, believe it or not. So the Cadillac, Susan Cadillac is a DC. She's a unicorn disc. It's not very common that you see a DC. So she even said that, right? I don't want to talk to people. I'm out.
Yeah.
But her driver, you could see like, she's like, we got to be here. We got to go do this. We got to go do that. But she's also super organized with details.
Right.
Now her husband, Paul, we hope to have them as a guest. They said they would, is off the charts I.
Yeah.
And he's ID.
Yes. What's up, Paul?
That's cool, right?
Yeah. Definitely.
So it's kind of neat to kind of and once you understand, you can start figuring people's disc out as you start talking to them too.
For sure, yeah.
So when you learn this skill and this tool, it helps you relate to people, helps you talk to people, it helps you engage differently, and people feel seen and heard.
Well, it's kind of like having cliff notes, right? Or it's having a little bit of a chart, because if you don't understand a person, you don't know them that well, and you're trying to go at something a certain way, it's not going to work no matter what.
No.
But if you understand, what makes the person tick, then you know what the hot buttons are.
You know what questions to ask and what questions to not ask to provoke the conversation. And when someone feels seen and heard, you're developing trust.
Right.
And when you develop trust, that's when you get to do business.
This is Coach Alicia speaking. She put on her coach hat.
It's true.
Yeah.
Are you a real estate agent in the Richmond, Virginia market or wanting to become one? We would love to have a conversation with you. Here at The Collaborative, we look for agents or potential agents that are coachable, competent, have strong character, and are committed to growth. And we are here committed to help you grow as well in your life and in business. The Collaborative is a group of aligned agents and support staff that are seeking personal growth and professional growth at the highest level. Give us a call today. We'd love to have a conversation with you. You can always reach us at thecollaborativere.com or shoot us a message.
I like that breakdown. I think it's great.
You learned something.
I learn something every day.
So that being said, we also had the privilege to listen to the amazing Phil Jones, who is the author of Exactly What to Say.
Incredible
and
book.
He's partnered.
He has two of them, right? So he has Exactly What to Say and then Exactly What to Say
for real estate. It's actually, there's just like a field guide in that one. So it's the same book. But he is partnered with Tom Ferry and they're doing master classes and stuff. And he talked about the question tree.
Right.
And so it was really interesting because today we had an open house and we talked about, are you asking the right questions? Right. And it's interesting because it's when you really think about the good conversations you have, and he made this clear. And I said, God, it really sticks with me. Those who ask the questions holds the power in the conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
But you can't ask the questions to the point where someone feels like they're being interrogated under a spotlight, right? Because they're going to close up and clam up. You have to ask questions that make them want to open up to you.
Exactly.
So that's like peeling the layers back. So one of the things that was interesting is, and I've been forcing myself to do this with our agents, and I know some of them will tell you, like Jamie, she was like, well, she asked a question and it was so easy for me just to give her the answer. But instead I said, well, what do you think?
Yeah.
And I think in that process, it's not dismissing someone, it's actually engaging them to think. And so I think we have to do that more consciously as well with staff and with anybody, your children, anybody you're working with, what do you think?
Right.
And I think when you turn that around and you find out, because they're obviously asking you because they want to know your opinion, but they have an opinion already. They just want to know what you think. But by turning it around, what do you think? Then you have a time to think about what your response is going to be.
Exactly.
Because it also then takes away that, because you may give the answer that the other person doesn't think or already thinks, but if they give you what they think and that's correct, then you're like, that's awesome. You did a great job. And then that builds confidence for the agent. It builds confidence for your children and for the staff.
And so then hopefully down the line, you don't have to keep asking, what do you think? Because they will tell you.
They will also learn. And I think it's the skill of like teaching your children and teaching your agents, if you're working with teams or in your staffing, if you're working with someone, to say like, hey, come to me with some answers. Yeah. Come to me with solutions that you think would be an answer before you come to me with a question.
Right.
And say, hey, this is what I prepared. This is ABC. What do you think is the best option? This is what I think I should do. What do you think? Yeah. That's a complete different conversation, I think.
Right. You're empowering someone.
Yes.
So
that's the word that Emily used. Yeah. Empowerment. So
absolutely.
I think that's what we're trying to build at our brokerage, is how to empower agents to build a business for themselves. We have an agent that was spoon-fed leads at her previous brokerage and depended heavily on them and didn't build a business. And she said she became lazy. Yeah. And now she's struggling with time blocking and all those things. And we're going to help her through that process. But it's like relearning the bad habits and understanding that you were eliminating your belief.
Unlearning the bad habits.
Unlearning the bad, but relearning new habits to overlay. It's like that grooves in a record. It's really hard sometimes. You just scratch it up.
Exactly.
So I think that's kind of been an interesting, like empowering. It's so easy to go and say, you're doing this wrong, but you have to be like, ask more questions of like, why do you think that way? What's going on, and going deeper.
That's right.
So that's been challenging, I think.
I think it's challenging, but I think right now we have the right group of people that are open to it. And it wasn't always that way. Mm-hmm. So if you're open to learning, you can learn anything. You can change anything. A lot of business and sales is mindset. So we keep telling our people, while the economy is going through its thing right now, in our agency, we don't accept that. We're not allowing that in. We're going to keep building the business. Our business is going to grow. And that's a mindset thing. You decide if you're going to be a part of what the narrative is that's being fed to everyone. And it's not that it's fake, but it's that no matter what kind of economy you have, there are always going to be people doing well. So you decide what side you're going to be on. Are you going to kind of like try to swim through it and struggle through it? Or are you going to look for opportunities, close deals, help people?
Yes.
Right. So that's
and I think that's perfect timing, because we came out of this conference that and there are a lot of people that have been through multitudes of economies.
Yeah.
In this business.
Absolutely.
And I actually interviewed a couple of agents, not casually, it wasn't like a podcast interview, but in passing, like, hey, please tell me how you grew your business and when did this happen? Like people that were big before 2020.
Right.
And several of them told me that they grew their business all during that crazy housing crash of 2009. And I was shocked to hear that, because I just assumed that everybody had that doom and gloom, because it was before I was in the business, right? I came in right after.
Yeah.
So, and even when I came in, everyone's like, "Ooh, I wouldn't go into that business." Like, and I was like, "Okay, whatever. That's your opinion. I'm going to do it." And I think you have to have the resolve and know that anything is possible. But everyone always says that it is the down economies where the wealth is made.
Yep.
So there are a handful of people, probably more than a handful of people, that are waiting for when this happens, and they pounce and they become bigger and bigger and bigger. And people then also, if you can think the right way, this is when they crawl out of their bad situation and become like a machine. Gary Vee is one of them.
Gary Vee, when you hear those big kind of speakers or leaders or whatever they're labeled as speak, they will call it waiting for the world to go on sale. And it's exactly what it is. And if you've prepared and you have cash, or you have investors or a group of people that are ready to take things over, that are possibly collapsing or just having.
Are you a predator or are you prey?
Or prey, right.
And the key is to not be the prey, right?
Well, yeah.
But also your mindset can't be prey and mindset. And I think it's important right now to cut the TV off. If you're around negative people, say, I love you, even if you're a family, I just can't have this conversation right now.
If you're still watching mainstream news, I don't know if we can help you, honestly. That is something that's being fed to people. You just turn it off, seriously. Otherwise, we're not meeting even in this conversation. Because
there isn't alignment in that.
No, there's no alignment. Just turn off the mainstream news.
And I think it's important to know, like, we're really excited. We're getting ready to close on our very first door, our first rental property. So excited. Yay. And it's just such a cool, and I'm getting ready to go to Tony Robbins and do Unleash the Power Within. I'm so excited about that experience. And it's such a monumental time because my birthday's coming up, and it's just that feeling of like, wow, all these things that I've envisioned. And this is a lesson for Macy. I envisioned these things happening, and they're happening. And it's just insane.
Well, that goes back to vision boards.
Yes.
That goes back
We're
to
doing vision boards.
physically writing down your goals.
Yes.
You have to do that. You have to be able to know where you're headed.
So I love that. So with that note and not being prey, we will continue this on to another podcast, but definitely look at the disc.
Yeah.
And if you are looking to see what your strengths are, take the disc for yourself and see like where your strengths lie. Because if you find something that's right in line with your disc, you will excel at it. And when you excel at things, it makes it easier and it's more fun.
Yeah. Whether you've taken it, if you've taken it like more than 2 or 3 years ago, take it again. If you've never taken it, you must take it.
It's
Read
really,
it very carefully.
really cool.
Just print it out and take a look.
And DM us if you don't have a copy. I can get you an access to a disc test. Happy to send it to you.
Use checkout code Mike.
What? There is no checkout code. It's free. All right. Peace out, everybody.
Peace out.
Please like and share our podcast if you find it useful. And if you've got questions for us, feel free to send them our way. We'd love to answer them.
Awesome.
Bye.
Bye.
What the hell? I forgot I didn't take my selfie today.